Okay, cool. So we are recording. And Cesar, before we get into like all of the shit that we're going to talk about, it's probably going to be a whole bunch of different things. I'm just going to run our sponsored ads real quick because, we got to show love to the sponsors here.
Yes, of course.
And I don't see my where's the overlay at? All right, we're just going to borrow an overlay from somebody so we don't look crazy in between them. So let it roll. There we go. How about I know what I'm doing? There we go. All right. Yo, we got a couple more of these bad boys. I think I'll do one more, then we'll BS, and then I'll do the last two. All right, let's get this overlay out of here. All right, we'll come back and do a couple more in a bit. Okay, so Cesar, I know you have your own show. I'm gonna go ahead and throw that up here right now. There it is.
Yep, that's a show I co-host with my two other co-hosts, Del Guzman and Brett Todd. It's actually their show. They brought me on, I think last year or something like that. But it's a show that started out with just a bunch of guys just talking about comics and pop culture and all that crap. And they added me on later, and so far it's been the three of us pretty consistent. And it's a very laid back. You've seen it, Amy. You've seen a couple episodes. It's extremely laid back. Yes, the cuss words do have the tendency to fly a little.
Great.
We do get a little saucy
Mm-hmm.
because we bring up little subjects that are a hot topic, and of course, whenever you bring up drama, a lot of people have a tendency to listen and comment, and the comments start to come in fast and furious. So it's a good show. It's a good time. We're on every Wednesday night at a new time of 9 p.m. East Coast, 8 Central, 7 Mountain, and 6 Pacific. We usually go for about an hour and a half, and sometimes a little bit longer. Depends if we get into something really heated or very interesting. We also do a toy show. where we have we have a guest that comes in and he talks about his toy collections, and he also sells as well. And it's toys for some reason always brings the nostalgia because
Yeah.
it's a lot of old toys as well that he brings up, and people start going to the Wayback Machine and start going like, "Oh my gosh, I remember the Evil Knievel and all the the Armstrong and Stretch Armstrong and all that," and it's just very fun because you start to kind of remember your past, and I'm not exactly a spring chicken anymore, so my memory is a little wacky. But it's a good show, good time. You can catch it on Facebook. Go ahead and as you can see the Comic Fanzine Facebook page she has up there. Just go up there and subscribe and like, and you can watch previous shows. We
Yep.
also support a lot of artists. We support a lot of Kickstarters. As a matter of fact, last year we had a sketch off where we had 16 artists come in. They had 10 minutes to sketch a live character,
Great.
and at the very end, they were all auctioned off, and all proceeds, and I do mean all proceeds, went to the Wounded Warrior Project. So we're planning on doing that again this year, maybe with a few returning artists, including the champion and some new artists. Amy, we might give you a call and have you come in and see how well you do under pressure. But it is live.
Hmm.
The show went on for 4 hours, but I gotta tell you, it was fun. These artists, we had Ryan Kincaid, Aaron Bartling, Martin Zavala, uh, John Martin. We Silverbacks, Drew Zucker, David Sanchez, uh, and Cal. I mean, we had quite a few people, and we're hoping to get John Jang this time because originally he was going to be on it and he had to drop out last minute. So, hey, you know what? Amy, I might give you a call. Actually, I think we might just pinch you in because, well, why
Okay.
not?
I would love to come embarrass myself with all of these people.
You know what? A lot of guys said that, and a lot of people said that, and they just listen for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Drew what they drew for 10 minutes, and then what happens is that they could literally go on back and touch it up, right? But it's
Right.
what you can do in 10 minutes, and then there's a sort of a vote off, and
Mm.
there you go. And then my Instagram. Believe it or not, I just started this. Actually, you are going to believe it or not because I'm old, and I'm old to the social scene. I listen. I'm on Facebook. That's the old people thing,
It's
and
very evil. It's all horrible anyway.
it's wacky. But anyways, I'm on Instagram. And there I am, the real Dracula's wolf, and believe it or not, there was already a Dracula's wolf taken.
Hmm.
Looks like he was 12. And I've had mine for a long time. It's an actual Gmail of mine, and there we go. I said, you know what, screw you. And it was my handle on Whatnot when I was on Whatnot as a buyer. I left that platform a while back.
Yeah.
But there you are, the real Dracula's Wolf. I just do some content. I show off some of my stuff. I found my old Nintendo game and I showed Kung Fu on there. And just before I came on, I just did another one. So I show off some of my stuff, and why not, right? I mean, that's the whole with the Instagram. Is that what all the young kids are doing now? They're just showing things and talking. I don't know.
Showing things and talking about things. That's all anybody's doing.
That's all everybody is. So yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. Just give me a follow.
Yeah, hell yeah. I can throw that back up there too anytime. But yeah, actually, Martin reached out to me because of you, I think, and said that he would come on the show. But really, I was like, hey man, like if you can teach me anything about this world as an artist to navigate it,
Yeah.
and tips, tricks, hacks, the inside scoop on some stuff so I know, what to avoid potentially. And he
There's
made
a
himself
lot.
a resource to me and he was like, for sure. So,
Yeah.
and then he said that maybe we could live sketch together or paint.
Yeah. You know what, Martin? If you guys have, I'm going to say for a lot of people who know me within the comic Facebook groups, they know Martin Zavala. And if you have not seen his artwork, Martin, and he has a big head as it is, and I'm going to make it even bigger. Martin is probably one of the biggest baddest airbrush cover artists I've seen.
I'm gonna pull up. Actually, let me pull
Oh,
up
you
his
should. I mean,
Instagram.
I'm perfectly fine with you pulling up in my segment because he does artwork with airbrush, which is very rare that you see airbrush covers.
Yeah, it is. Very unique.
And there you go. He did a line of Joker covers. I mean,
I watched
that
some of those
Joker
live.
is it's unbelievable. His last Ronin. And the thing is too is that what's cool about what he does is that when you see his art, you might go like, "Oh, that's BS." While he does it live, and he'll
Hmm,
do a quick time lapse of you going, "No, it's me, man. I do it,"
right.
and it's great. I have a lot of people who care less about books. But when I show them Martin's art, um, they're pretty blown away. And if you're into comics or not, you still can appreciate art. You
Oh,
really can.
sure.
I mean,
Oh,
but then again, it's I am
oh,
the beholder. I am the
oh,
beholder
yeah.
because
I mean, it's subjective, but then there's
it is
other things that
subjective.
are not. Like, there's totally objective things in art. Like, no, I don't know if I would necessarily say content and subject matter. That can always have some subjectivity to it. But there's things that are objectively shit to do in the art world, right?
Mhm.
Like ripping other people's shit off and just basically
Yeah.
being like a fraud or a charlatan, right?
Oh god, that's that we can go on hours talking about the AI apps that are ripping off artists' work
Yeah.
and claiming to be themselves theirs, right? There are people literally putting in, Batman
Yep.
taking a dump in the bathroom, and it comes up, and then they print it out and say, "Yeah, that's me." But it's in the style of an actual artist who's
Yes.
making a living, and it's
Right.
it's it's so wrong. And on the podcast, on a comic fanzine podcast we did a deep dive on this, and we support our friends who are artists, and we support someone like you who this is my bread and butter. I create. I'm a creative. I
This is my
make
sole job. Yeah.
this is my job, and to think that some douchebag could just go, I put in, and then here it is, and it drives me crazy to pawn it off as someone else's or their own work.
I
It's
appreciate
maddening.
that you being really incensed on my behalf and other artists' behalf because I gotta tell you, I personally am not threatened by it, and I think it's just such a joke. When the AI stuff started popping off a couple months ago, and everybody was saying, "Oh, like, oh, people are gonna lose their jobs," and
Mhm.
well, I was like, so
No,
first of all, there's things that you can't teach an algorithm. I don't care who you are.
that's right.
And secondly, like obviously it learns by being introduced and seeing other things. So what it's doing is copying, replicating, altering.
Yep.
And what I was telling some of my artist friends when they were tripping out about this, over winter, early winter, I was like, I feel like this is really simply handled because I mean, I graduated college 10 years ago, and even previous to that when I was an undergrad and stuff, we had plagiarism checkers for all of your paperwork. So
Mhm.
if you did any type of writing, you had to submit it through an online plagiarism checker, and then it
Mhm.
would spit back out with a percentage,
Wow.
and it would keep that paper forever to then cross reference. So,
Ah,
for example,
mhm.
if I gave my sister a paper,
You're
even
you're you're in the system already.
right, even if she went to a different school, if they're using the same catalog,
No,
whatever, it'll come back.
it's impressive.
So I was telling people, I'm like, this will become addressed. I guarantee you it would be a very simple like it would be a simple fix to have some type of plagiarism checker to run art through. And what I see happening very soon or immediately is like you said, people are like, they're not just passing shit off as their art. Anybody who accepts that, even though they're none the wiser, it's going to reflect poorly on them because
Mhm.
people are going to be like, whoa, you didn't vet your artist, or like you got this, you know there will be some type of tool that comes out where people can run your art through a program, I'm thinking, and then see where it's sourced from or what it is. That's my opinion. Especially with digital art, that encoded into it is like when it was created, when it was last modified, blah 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 blah, blah
Mhm.
what IP it originated from. So if you can do that, it would be very simple to then validate if it's real art, if it's bullshit, whatever.
You could also tell for people who don't, because some of this AI work is pretty damn good. It's a little like, is that, but you could always tell by the hands. He's can't the hands right, and
I
there's
know
six hands, 8 hands, and it's that'll do it.
what's super weird too, though, is that I'm not gonna lie. Like a couple months ago, I downloaded one of those apps. I don't remember which one it was, Firelight or Photo Light. I don't know. It
Mhm.
was really fun though. I paid like the $2 and had fun with it for like a week, and I was like, what can I get it to make?
Mhm.
And I had it producing images, right, of human figures, which
Uh-huh.
I don't need that. I have reference tools in my brain and shit, but I was typing in stuff, like Goku Super Saiyan, but a woman or some shit.
Mhm.
And it
Mhm.
was popping out all this cool stuff. And I was like, damn, that looks really good. But then this is an artist trick. I don't know how well known it is, but if you are drawing and then you hold up, if you have like traditional medium, you can hold it up to a mirror. If you're working digital, you just flip it horizontal. Something about mirroring an image, you instantly see everything that sucks about it. So I took these AI generated forms and I just horizontally flipped them, and it was like, and then
Interesting, right? It's like the trick of the eye.
yeah. It was so crazy. So that showed me how like not bilaterally symmetrical and shit it was, and it just looked
Hmm.
super wonky. I was like, oh, it can't even do what it looks like it can do. In my
It,
opinion.
it, it reminds me of that art that you've seen, right? Where they put a bunch of stuff together, and if you have to look at the right angle, it creates a face,
Yes.
and if you keep moving, it breaks up the little pieces all together. It's
Mhm.
almost it's a little bit of that, right?
It
You
is.
kind of have to look at it straight on.
It kind of is because a lot of this AI generated art is really busy.
Mhm.
Like there's a lot of bright lights, there's a lot of colors, there's a lot of shit going on in them.
Mhm.
And I think that distracts people from how it's wonky it really is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you look at it for what it is, and you're like, well, that's pretty badass. And then if you really deep dive look into it, you're like, oh, it's not that great. But then
Yeah.
again, it was just spit out within a matter of minutes. So I mean,
Seconds. Yeah.
seconds. Is that what it is?
True.
I don't do that. Uh,
Sorry, let me shut it off. Do not disturb.
the
Sorry.
it's all right. Everybody disturbs while you talk. It's perfectly fine. If you were on the show, you would know. It's a
I do
shit
love
show.
the show, by the way. I'm very entertained by it.
Well, thank you. You know what? When we don't have artists on, we have these episodes called the shit show, and which is basically what do you guys watch? Did you guys watch The Mandalorian last night?
Mm.
Or, as for example, this coming Wednesday, we're probably going to talk about the Flash trailer,
Mhm.
the Game of Game of Guardians, the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer,
Mhm.
Ant Man. What do you think? What's going on? And it becomes this rolling. I will say rolling shit downhill because it starts getting bigger and bigger and it just gets it's funny. It gets people talking though. But
You
yeah,
guys cover a lot of ground.
we try yeah. Yeah, we have to move it along or else we'll stay on one topic for like an hour and it's like we only have 30 minutes to try to squeeze in other topics, but
And
it
it's
is what it is.
it's comics, but you also talk about movies, television, other pop culture stuff, and then
Yeah.
you guys talk about like the drama. What's also interesting, not a lot though. I mean, I haven't seen that a lot, just the right amount in my opinion. But what's really cool too about what you guys talk about, all of that, and then you have people on the show who bring different viewpoints, and you have, like you said, the artists, and they can speak to that end, or collectors,
Mhm.
or sellers, and I'm
Mhm.
like, wow, that's very interesting for me because, as everyone knows, I'm so new to this whole comic world, and it's so involved. Like it's got so many layers.
We do have you're right. We do have a lot of different personalities and we also have a lot of point of views. A lot of our viewers are sellers,
Hmm.
a lot are collectors,
Hmm.
a lot are writers
Hmm.
and artists and the indie go-goists and the Kickstarterists. It's such a hodgepodge of people's different takes. So what someone might say, I think this is the next. you'll get the other side of, yeah, but
Right.
it's also this. You're like, oh, I never really thought about it that way, right? And overall, it's all love because we really truly um, know each other, and we get these new people who get introduced to us, and we get to know them based on the comments, and it really does become a family. You and I talked offline once, and I like to say and I like to preach that the comic community is a mass. It's a massive state of largeness, but it is so small in township.
Mm,
Everybody knows a lot. Everybody knows everybody,
mm,
and it's odd. It's like if I'm going to buy a book from someone, or I'm going to trade a book with somebody, I'm going to say, "Hey, does anybody know this guy? Because I'm about to do a job," and you'll hear 40 people going, "This guy's great. He's
mm.
fantastic. I've traded with him. This and that." I'm like, "Oh, I know you. Oh, I know you. Oh, I okay. So you guys are okay. Good. He's good to go."
Crazy.
And
Just on the
it's
buying and
crazy.
selling. That's wild.
Listen, buying and okay, so for you newbies out there who's like, I want to get into comics, and there's many ways for you to do it. What are you in for? Are you the kind that really care and read books? uh, buy what you want to start reading, and read your books. Then you
Mhm.
have the flippers. You have the ones who buy low and sell high.
Mhm.
And you have the speculators. Oh my gosh, the new Flash uh, trailer just came out. I got to start looking at all the Elseworlds comics, and and then this Flash, and then this, and they get all,
Mm.
and then you have the collectors who have a certain genre they like to collect. I myself like to Silver Age, and I collect first appearances, which we call keys. A key in a comic book is any key moment in a comic book, whether it be a death of, a first appearance of, or a first time someone meets somebody. That's what I'm a collector of. There are people who do you poos,
Yeah.
Tigaverse,
Mm,
naughty and nice covers.
mhm.
It's not my forte, but I will never, ever, ever talk shit to someone who does collect that because
Mm,
it's not my money. You can
right.
collect whatever you want, and it all goes back to collect what you love.
Mhm.
Don't give a crap what anybody tells you. If you love it and it makes you feel good, buy it, collect it, trade it, tear it up. I don't care what you do. Just do whatever makes you feel good.
That's a
No
very
judgment.
nice message.
Well, it is because what also happens is that you have a lot of toxicity
Mm,
in these groups, and Facebook alone can be very toxic,
mm.
comic community or not,
Right.
because you will always have, as a friend of mine calls it, the old heads who are the purists, who
Mm,
are comic books are meant to be read and that's it. And what are
mm.
you doing buying books entombed in plastic? You're never,
Hmm.
dude. That's me.
Right.
That's what I do. You can collect. You have the completists who say I have every single Spider-Man from number 1 to 880. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm very happy for you, and that's quite an accomplishment. I hope you have the room for it because that shit could blow up to 50,000 comics. And next, you're living in the storage unit because your wife kicked you out because
Hell
you
yeah.
you're eating off a table of long box comic books because there's nowhere to put it. So good luck with that.
Uh-huh.
But you know what? It's a very subjective hobby. It's a fun hobby. It could also be a very expensive hobby,
Yeah.
frustrating hobby,
Mm,
very pleasing.
mm.
Um, you insert the adjective.
Yeah.
It's whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
But there are people who get tired of it and they're like, I'm done with it and I'm selling all my stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, they're like, okay. Or the life happens.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
have a surgery. I have this. I have that. I need to pay. Stuff
Mm,
happens. I lost my job. I need to sell books. I wish I never had. But I have to. And it's like, hey, man, someone's always gonna be willing to buy your stuff. And it's
right.
sad, but what ends up happening later is that
You
they
know
end up buying those books back later some other time.
you know what's interesting about the comic space is that collecting comics seems totally different than collecting almost anything else. because there's so many different opinions on it, and then there's so many different reasons why people do it. Whereas like most people who collect things, it's for a couple different reasons. Like I obviously like books. This isn't even all my books. And I guess you could say I collect them. I collect what I care about. I collect what I've read 100%, and that's it. If I haven't finished the book, I don't want it in my house.
Right.
And then, like my dad is an avid coin collector and stamp collector.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real rhyme or reason to what he collects. He collects kind of what he likes. He has a penchant for certain time periods, but that's really it. And that's fine. And you can go to these shows and you can bullshit with people. But with comics, it's like there's so many reasons why you might collect certain things, I feel. And it's just different. And it's also, comics is kind of like a nexus between like film, reading, visual art, television, action figures, pop. It's an intersection.
It branches. It's the hub. It's a hub for many things.
Yeah, right.
But someone could be watching this show and go, well, the card collecting scene is just as bad.
Oh yeah, that's so true.
Sure.
I didn't think about that.
Sports cards or comic cards or whatever cards. Oh yeah, you're gonna hear people going, it's worse. Then there you have the Matchbox collectors, the cars. That's another. People are gonna say they're ruthless. They're this or that. So each community of collectors, they're always going to come back with their horror stories of, oh, if you think comics are bad, you should try X. You should try Y. Which I will not, because this is enough. I mean, my wife alone just is, I'm okay with this. She's like, ugh. But I can be like, hey, honey, I'm going to start collecting coins. And she'll be like, no, you're not. If you are, you're going to be doing it while you're alone.
At least it's worth something. My husband just hoards a bunch of junk everywhere. He wouldn't say
it. Sell those on eBay, then it's selling, right?
We're not allowed to part with the junk, man. The junk stays once it crosses the threshold.
Well, listen, people collect these. A lot of people collect this for investment. A lot of these books can be very, very expensive. An old book at a high grade. When the time comes, for my example, my daughter will probably get these because I don't really sell these big books, and she's probably going to get it. And what she does with them, it's on her. But I did tell her that she sells them, I will haunt her in her sleep. I will be pulling her toes while she sleeps.
Fair enough.
So yeah, it's rough.
What draws you to the Silver Age comics, or what you're particularly fond of?
History. How cool is it to have a book from the 1960s, 50s in good condition? The story behind it, the iconic cover artists, the Jack Kirby's, of the Silver Age, and the L.B. Coes of the Golden Age. It's just so cool to look at this book and go, this book has history.
Yeah.
It has history. It's been around since the 60s. It's been around since the 50s, 40s. And to have a copy of it, if it could talk, with the stories it would tell. And people will say, well, you can never open it and read it. Well, if I really, truly wanted to read it, I could buy an omnibus, or I could go online and look at it digitally. But I'd like to just preserve it the way it is, And I just like to preserve history. So when people come into my room for the very first time who are not comic book people, and that just happened this past weekend, they don't know where to look, because it's almost like they don't get it, but they get it. It's something very beautiful to them. It's almost like a museum.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And they look around and they're like, it's fascinating that someone could have a passion about something like this and care enough to make this shrine to it. And it's very cool. And I that's how I got into it. And that's how I got into this. But I started collecting in the 90s, just like everybody else. The worst time to collect. My grandmother had a Spawn #1. It doesn't matter. And then I stopped collecting and picked it up again in 2018, and have not stopped since then.
Oh wow! So you've made a lot of progress.
Yeah, actually, believe it or not, I have. The thing is that this is the secret: is that we're all kids at one point, and we all wanted things, And now that
Mhm.
we're adults, we're like, I could buy
Yeah.
that. Right?
Right.
I've always wanted that toy. I've always wanted that video game. I've always wanted that book. And now that I'm an adult, I could actually purchase it and
Yeah.
feel that little piece in your heart that was missing as a child. And it's true. It's true. That's why you see so many adults spending money to have a piece of that nostalgia placed
Mhm.
back in your brain like a jigsaw puzzle that you missed when you were 9 years old,
Yeah, you
but
miss
you're
it.
able to find it
Now you
and
physically
replace it.
can possess it, right?
Mhm.
It's
Yep.
almost like time traveling in a way.
It is. Oh, my room is a time traveling room.
That's so cool.
It's my little TARDIS of crap, and because it is, you're looking at books and going, oh, it's a book from 1971. Oh, it's a book from 1978. Oh, 62, 63. Yeah,
Crazy.
pretty cool. Yeah, it is cool.
It's very I don't know, it's kinda, like, appealing to me, or it seems to me it kind of plays into, like, a lot of foundationally human things, like the nostalgia, history, being a part of something, because, like we just said, comics are a nexus, unlike there's other things that are comparable, but this is a great example. Comics are tied into so many other things, and it's like I don't know. When you say people who don't understand walk into the room, I can understand that because they do instantly know it's our history. It's all of our history, whether we like it or not, it's still part of our collective history. And
Yeah,
even
yeah.
if you don't like comics, everybody knows at least the very basics about comics. You know what I'm
You
saying?
you'll definitely get someone of my dad would love this room, right?
Mhm.
Because he or she's dad or grandfather used to collect, and they knew that, right?
Right.
And they know someone at least who understands. And just like you said, there are people who watch the Marvel and DC movies,
Mm.
and they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, that's based off a character."
Oh my god.
Yeah, right here. They're like, "Oh, I love Doom Patrol." Well, did you
Mm.
know that's based on a comic book? It was
Hmm.
a comic book,
Wow.
and it's like, yeah, and then they start going down the rabbit hole, right? Oh,
Mhm.
what else is? Oh, I didn't know that was a comic book. Oh, I didn't know that was a comic book. And like, yes, it's based on these books. That's why you're making the movie. And then it became people buying pops, right? That are these, which another thing I have 4 of them that were
The
given to me.
Funko Pops?
Yeah, I don't buy it. And I also don't get it, but it's a huge industry.
It's huge, and I didn't get it for the longest time either, but now that I've seen them so many times, I'm like, "You know what? Fuck it, they're cute." I don't know what it is, but they're cute. Would I buy one? Yeah, maybe. They are pretty damn cute when you got, like, all the different like, there's Thor and Beast or what anything.
Oh
Cute.
my gosh. They I've seen collections from here to the wall,
Yeah,
and just like sneakerheads, right, who collect
right.
Air Jordans or whatever it is. There's always you know what? Human nature like to collect. We all like to collect. We all like to like squirrels. We put
Yeah,
it in that tree and we just like it's mine, like the
yeah.
golems. We all have that golem inside us, all right?
Hell yeah.
You're my precious. It's one of those always. Uh it's just a matter of what are you collecting, or are you going to sell it for profit down the road, or are you going to end up on an episode of Hoarders?
Yeah, right.
It's depends on what you're collecting. If I'm collecting trash cans and garbage bags, you're going to be seeing me on that show.
That's a thin line too.
Right.
To cross over from collector to hoarder, I've seen that happen a lot with different
Hmm.
things. So, I had a question, and now I can't remember what it was. It was Oh, no, I can't remember the question, but I have a comment. What is interesting to me, this is like a while back. Now we're going a while back in our conversation we just had, but you had said like, buy what you want.
Hmm.
Everybody collects for different reasons.
Hmm.
Everybody's interested in different kinds of things. And I really like that. And I said to you after watching a couple of your shows, I was like, oh, I feel quite relieved now because as a newcomer, writing and doing art for comics, everyone knows I'm new. That's fine. That's
Hmm.
fine. I know I am. Cool. But you get people that are like, do this, do this, do no, it has to be like that. It has to be like this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, I'm new. So like I guess does it all have to be like this?
Hmm.
No, it doesn't. Like
Yeah.
it's like what you said, it's all up to preference and like personal taste. And And obviously context, right? Like, okay, I hate Fairyland, super, super like stylized looking. Look at the
Hmm.
content of it. And then you have other things that are more hyper realistic. Well, it matches the subject matter that's inside of it. You know,
Hmm.
as long as the art is good, it matches the subject matter, and then blah 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 blah. It's not everything is for everybody, and it's not supposed to all be the same.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
If
Which
if if everything was the same, it would be a boring ass world.
yes.
You
I
know, but we do things. Everyone does things differently because we kind of have to, and that's what separates you between you and somebody else. And I'm
agree.
going to go back to Martin. Martin airbrushes. I don't see too many airbrushers out there,
No.
right? Other people, bottom line, if you want to look at somebody's cover and go, ah, that's an Amy Good.
Mhm.
How do you know? Their style,
Right.
right? That's an Ivan Towel.
Mhm.
That's his style. That's a Jack Kirby. How do you know? Oh, you know a Jack Kirby.
Right.
And that's if everyone drew the same method every single time, then there's no
Exactly.
distinction between what and this.
And an artist has their own style, just like everyone has unique handwriting. You're born with it, you know?
That's right.
It can be perfected, but I mean, personally speaking, I don't think it can be changed. It can be elaborated on. It can be improved. It can be like altered, but you can't like fundamentally change it. And yeah, and if we all drew the same, if we all wrote the same, if we all thought the same, if we all, logically processed things the same, the world would be about as I don't know, it's about as interesting as a blank sheet of paper.
Yeah,
So yeah.
it would be 1984
Oh
where
yeah,
we all dress the same and we all do the same and what it is. So uh,
right.
we're trying to we're trying to break that mold, and there's quite
Mm,
a few people who are doing that. But always be you. And if the chatter in your head is trying to talk to you and trying to tell you to do this and do that because this guy does it this way and this girl does it this guy, no, you do it your way. You do it. You drive your own car and you keep everyone's hands off of your steering wheel.
ooh,
Because the more hands on the steering wheel, the more chances you have to wreck.
yeah, right. You know what's funny too is that just through your appreciation and understanding of comics, I know this is gonna apply to other things too, but you understand that a lot of artists don't understand that. A lot of well, yeah, or up and comers or potentials or hopefuls or whatever. When I go back into my early 20s and think about college and stuff, that's a lot of people like sit around and they're like, "Oh man, like how am I ever going to be whatever if I'm not like this?" And you'd be amazed, well, you wouldn't be amazed, I'm sure you get the idea. I can't tell you how many times like just artists get together and they'll watch another artist, live streaming or a recorded video of whatever they're doing in whatever medium and just all sit there and be like, "Oh man, I could never do that. I could never be that." And it's like, one, put in your 10,000 hours. What are you talking about? Two, why the fuck do you have to be just like that? I don't understand. Like, there's space for all of us, just like what you said. You know, a Clayton Crane when you see one, you see a McFarlane when you see one, like, and obviously apply that. I love fine arts too. So like Pollock, okay,
Mhm.
whatever. You know these people when you see them by their definitive style and work. So there's nothing wrong with it standing out on its own. That's the fucking point. Like that's the point.
There's nothing wrong with learning tips and tricks from another artist that you
Mhm,
could put into your own art.
mhm.
Now, mind you, I'm just talking as a guy who just loves comics. I'm not an artist. I create in other ways. I like to work with wood and stuff like that. But
Right.
you could, and I look at YouTube videos and I see other people do their stuff. I'm like, oh, so that's how you get that result,
Yeah, oh, of
right?
course, of
Same
course.
with an artist. You go, ah, that's his style getting shading done. I'm going to take that and use it my way with
Yes,
that template.
100.
That is fine. I mean, that's flattery and at its
That's also
best,
how you learn. Like, how are you supposed to learn?
and that's how you learn. Yeah.
And the thing is too, I mean, like I got countless textbooks here from the foundations of how you use light, how you use color, how you blah, 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 blah. All that's fine. All of us adhere to those rules. That's like the laws of nature. They must be adhered to. But you have to understand them before you can break them or elaborate on them. That's where the independent style comes in. And I have to explain to people too, oh, I want to hire you or whatever, but can you make it look like this guy? Can you make it look like their stuff? And I'm like, no, I'm not even going to try. That defeats the purpose of me existing.
Right.
And here's the thing. God, I'm sorry. And here's the thing. I don't know how to be more basic than this, the most reductionist, but this is as succinct as I can get it. The reason I can't draw the way that any other artist draws is because it's really not about what's happening here. It's what's happening up here. Somebody, I don't know how they see the world, but however they see it and their brain processes it is how they translate it out into the paper. I see the planes of a nose broken up a certain way in my mind. I see eyes broken up into certain pieces. That's how I translate it onto paper. But we don't all think and process and see the same thing. So how the fuck could it ever be that I mimic their style? I can't know what's in their head. I can try to copy their line strokes, but it's going to end up looking like some cheap plagiarist shit because that's not what they were doing. They were thinking. They weren't drawing like a robot. They were thinking. You know what I mean?
Then you'll be labeled as someone who's trying to draw like somebody else.
Which is trash. I would never want anybody to think. I would rather have my shit legitimately suck than be thought of as like a fraud.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. Somebody's world might be, the sky might be purple, and you can never guess what color of purple.
Right.
So it's listen, our art, it's tough for you guys. I got to say, I mean, to be an artist, we just supported a guy on our last show who did his very first cover, comic book cover, and he was so humble and he's so excited and he's this and that. And I told him, we all told him, this is just the beginning, man. You're gonna take off. And the thing is that every single time I see these guys' art, it keeps getting better and better and better because they put in the time, right? They grind, like you said. You put it. I could never do that. Well, if you put in, like you said, 10,000 hours of over and over and over, you're gonna get it. And if you can't, well, shit, you might want to look into a different career. I don't know, maybe teach. I don't know, right? What's that thing? If you can't do, teach.
Yeah.
So it's perfectly fine. I now listen, what you guys, and it sounds like a broken record. Those who are watching this and have seen me on my show or been interviewed in other shows, they know one thing about me. I have never read a comic book in my life. I talked to you about this, and your eyes almost bulged out of your head. I'm going to be 51 on Sunday, and I have never read a comic book from end to end in my life.
Crazy.
When I was collecting in the 90s, I collected strictly on the art. Boy, that looks cool. Boop. Oh, that looks great. Boop. Number one, I guess. I mean, something. Boop. I picked it up, right? And then later on, I was like, what am I doing? I have a bunch of 90s garbage. And I never once wanted to open it up and read it. So then people ask me, then how do you know what's going on? Well, I do read.
Right.
Not storylines, but I read the gist. I get I get the ideas. I know what's going on. I get an idea, but I've never read storylines. So that's why, as a comic book collector, I don't understand. I can't say, I can't critique someone's writing because I don't read it. So I can't say that writing sucks. I wouldn't know. I'm not going to critique it. I'm not going to critique your art because I don't know how to draw.
No, that's not fair. You can totally critique art if you don't know how to draw.
Well, that's true. There's a lot of artists out there I think are complete
You're
shit.
You're the consumer of the product.
There's art out there that I've seen that I'm like, oh, that's god awful. But I'll never say anything because who am I to say anything? But I've seen some art out there and I'm like, oh my gosh. And you think you're an artist, But once again, the guy next to me can go, that's pretty badass.
Right.
So I'm like, okay.
Same. I don't appreciate all art. I've had my siblings, especially back when we were younger and I was in art school, they would send me memes, but they were real shit, like the traditional, like, go to a gallery, it's a fine art exhibition, but literally what's on display is like a piece of cheese with hair on it.
Well, no, that contemporary art. I grew up in Los Angeles until 2021 when I moved now to New Mexico. So I lived in pretentious town.
Mm,
I've gone to the Museum of Conceptual Arts
mhm.
where people are hovering over a pencil hanging by a string over a piece of paper, and they're like, "This this is showing me the corruption of the northern." No, it's a piece of. I don't I don't get it. But the 45 people behind me are loving it.
I don't get it either.
Okay, but I don't get it. Now at the same time, I don't get Picasso,
Mm.
but I do appreciate his older work.
Right, I was gonna say, if you look at his older work, he
If
was
I look at it when he was doing impressionisms and stuff,
right.
his impressionist era loved it. When he went to the cubic and all that, I was like, I'm out.
Oh,
Don't get it.
yeah, I can go either way
Yeah.
on it. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. I'm gonna tell you right now, and this is the real tea on that shit. With the fine arts, my first undergrad was in fine arts. Fine arts people are like the white people that have dreadlocks and smoke a bunch of pot and are like, yeah, man, whatever. Like, come over later and we'll smoke a bong and paint on this old canvas I found in a dumpster. Like that's real shit. And I was that when I was like a teenager. That's why I started there because I was like, yeah, man, I'm gonna like make my own pigment out of berries. This fine art shit, like this contemporary and postmodern and anything that's under the fine art, I don't give a flying fuck if people say it's this most profound shit. I'm telling you right off top, this is the realness. Over 90% of it is absolute bullshit, and the people who make it know that. They
It's
know that.
just the way on.
Yeah. They just have obligations. They need to, they need to get their shit out there, whatever. They got to make money. But I'm telling you, it's bullshit, and it's stuff like some of it obviously is very impactful, meaningful, like these series people put years into, but a lot of this shit is stuff that they thought up when they were fucking high or like half awake, and they were like, dude, whatever, I gotta get this out. It's nobody talks about that, and it's like it's a well-known open secret that like fine art is a bunch of bullshit, even in the artist community. But all right. Whatever. Anyways, moving on. I don't care about that. I don't have a dog in that fight. Make your fucking money with the cheese with the hair.
Hey, if you're making if you're feeding yourself and your family, hey,
It's quite genius, to be honest. I wish I could have thought of that, like put a shoe on a podium and be like, "Where's my money?"
do you, boo boo? Because whatever. I'm not here to critique shit like that. But you know what? When it comes to comic books, um, many people say that cover sucks.
Mm.
Someone else loves it.
Oh, I heard you
Um,
guys talking about the most famous recent case of that Eminem versus Spidey, rap battle bullshit. I liked the cover. It was cool as fuck, but just from a purely like picture standpoint.
well, $5,000 people are dropping on this thing. 4,000.
I
And
don't
the thing is, it's not a key. It's just people either are fans of Eminem and they're like, this is I want it in my thing. But the thing is, the talk was, all right, let's see how much it's worth in 3 months when people are selling for $400,
right.
right? And that's the thing. Another thing I don't do is I don't really collect modern. I'm very picky if I do collect modern books. It
Mhm.
just doesn't cool art, but not enough for me to buy it. That's just me because there's so many copies of it and all that. So
What is your
I'm
feeling
very
on, like, the modern age of comics as a I mean, I know you don't collect modern age, but I'm surely you know people who do. So what is the
listen.
word on the street about that? Like, what is their worth? What is their collectability? What is the enjoyability of modern age comics?
As we all know, variants because one book could have 400 variants of the same book, and there's people who will collect every single variant because
Right.
that's part of collecting. I collect all the variants of this book. I have all 28 of them, or I have 20. But the story's trash, but I like the art.
And
right?
they keep
I
putting like
collect.
the same book inside of it,
It's
and
the same book inside. It's the Do You Pools. It's the same book inside. It's just different
right.
covers, right? And there's the same thing with many other stuff. They're like, so
Mhm.
what? Did you actually read the book? Oh yeah, it's complete trash. But I like the covers. I like the homages, right? That's the other thing too, is that they'll do an homage
All of
of
it.
an old
All
cover.
of
As
it
an
is
example, right there. There's the ASM 300 with
300.
Spider-Man,
Yep.
and that cover has been swiped from here to Timbuktu. It is all
I had
over the place.
somebody literally ask me to do a cover variant homage to 300, and I was
There
like,
you go.
"No."
Yeah, because you'll be one of 700 other cover swipes that people are doing. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
True
people
though.
might people might argue with me, but I think the future and the reason why these books going to be worth more in the future, and I do mean future, I think that the age of paper is slowly going the way of the dodo.
Hmm.
I'm slowly thinking more and more digital will be the way to read.
Mm.
Paper in itself might slowly become less and less and less. And if you ever watch any of those dystopian movies of the future, they're like, oh, I'll give you an example. Book of Eli. That's a book.
Right, you're not allowed to have the
Oh,
book.
you my God, you have the first edition. And that's it might turn a little bit into that. Like you have an actual comic book with like pages. That's
Right.
crazy. My grandfather used to have that.
Mm.
Um, I'm not saying it's gonna happen next week. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it is something that one day digital will be king. But that's just me. That's my opinion. And once again, I always tell people this is just my opinion. People don't throw your feces at me if you don't like what you're hearing. It's just me. It's my opinion. I mean jack shit. Who am I? I'm not a. I don't. My word isn't anything. That's just what I think. Because somebody will be like, "Oh, you're crazy. Your paper will." Okay, dude, relax. I'm just saying that's my opinion. But because look at it now, digital. You can read this on digital. You can read this copy on digital. You could do this and this and this and that, and
Right.
scan the QR code. It takes you to the book. You need.
It's instant, it's a lot cheaper, you can store it in a very compact manner, blah,
You
blah, blah.
can't lose it. I mean, you can't
I have
burn in the fire.
I have no care either way if things were to remain the way they are, revert back to paper, or go totally digital. I could go either way on that because I see benefits to both.
Mhm.
But obviously, as you can see, I'm quite prone to things I can physically touch, as are
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody says. So to an extent, yeah, I think at least a portion of us will still be, keeping the physical copies, also for posterity. I know that you said that they can, burn in a fire. All right, let's not even get started on the Great Library of Alexandria, where we apparently lost like a quarter of the knowledge of the world. No, but for real, you also can't be trusting like where is it? Oh, can you see it? No, whatever. My hard drive, my external hard drives, and all the thumb drives.
Unless it's on the cloud.
But do I even trust that? No, because then I probably have to like pay to access my own shit. And if I forget to pay for 1 month, they might get rid of it. Or what if it gets hacked? I don't know. I still see like, I'm
Listen,
serious.
I listen. I'm in tech, and I have a different side.
Really?
Yeah.
Because me and some of my coworkers and clients have used Dropbox and Google Drive. I know it's not the
Mhm,
same cloud,
mhm,
and had our files all corrupted to shit
mm.
on both platforms. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy.
That's not
Yeah.
good.
No, 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 it's not good. So I don't know. But I see benefits to both. It might be a
Well,
benefit to collectors if things start going digitally because then your trade would be like a total commodity. You know what I mean?
like I said, you know, what does it say that you can't take it with you? Well, I don't
Right.
know. I might actually fit as many fucking slabs in my coffin as much as possible. Now that I think about it, it's gonna be all like inside the seams in my jacket,
Yeah.
down my pants.
Stuffed, like, or just no, that'd probably be sacrilegious too. I was gonna say burn them on a pyre like a
Oh,
Viking.
now see, now you're talking crazy.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, now you're talking now you're talking batshit crazy. You being a newbie to this world, one of the things we're going to be talking about on the Coming Fanzine podcast soon is scammers.
Oh
Scammers
yeah,
are running rampant, people.
I
Lock
want to
your
hear all.
doors, close your windows, and hide your daughters because scammers are around. And people are like, oh, I've heard of scammers. The thing is, their technology and their way of thinking is getting better and better.
Right.
But at the same time, it's also getting more silly and silly. I told you offline that the latest scam I've seen uh, is someone took a photocopy of a
Yeah.
book, put it in the background, and then they put their name on a piece of paper in front of it, but the photocopy is blurry, so make it look like a slab, and you
Mm.
can tell because it's creased, it's all hard edge. Um, it doesn't. The funny thing is too is that the way they wrote their name and date on the piece of paper was written the way other
In Europe,
countries would write it with Europe,
month, year,
which
not month, day, year.
country is here is what day,
It's
month,
month, day, year,
year.
right? Yeah, we do
Over there, they do month, day, year. So that's another good sign indication. Going, I don't sign. And the other thing too is someone trying to sell a $2,400 book for $1,100, and you're like, this deal is too good to be true. When your spidey sense is tingling, when you get that
Mhm.
gut feeling going, Caesar, you might not want to buy that, but your brain's going, this is a great deal. I'm gonna just it's most likely not gonna happen. So what they'll do is that they're gonna be giving you a sob story of,
Mhm.
listen, man, can we do friends and family because I don't want to pay the fees and my daughter just got sick. My mom needs an iron lung. I'm getting my foot amputated tomorrow and I need the money. And you're like, okay, man, you know what? Here's friends and family. And then
I
they
bet.
delete their account. You don't get your book. There's no way for you to make a claim with PayPal because you did not pay goods and services. Gone. And you're out money.
Let me ask you something very specific about scamming for sellers or whatever. I don't know. I have no idea because I don't sell comics and I don't really buy them either unless I'm at like a con. And but I've heard people speculate. I don't know if I know anyone who has proof of this, though, that like for example, if someone's like got all these variants or this new whatever that just came out,
Mhm,
they want to hype it up. They want to obviously make whatever they can make.
mhm,
I've heard that people will go on eBay and have fake accounts and bid
mhm,
on their own shit
mhm,
and be like, "Yeah, go check it out on eBay
mhm,
right now and selling for whatever the fuck." But
mhm,
it's really them on,
mhm,
on ghost accounts, basically.
mhm.
Oh,
Shill
that's
bids.
real?
Shill bids.
Shill bits. Oh, there's a name
Bids.
for it.
BIDIS. Like
Oh,
when
shit.
you like when you bid on a
Yeah.
book or bid on thing, they're shills. They have either the fake accounts or they'll have their friends
Mhm.
do it.
Mm.
And next thing you know, it's like, oh, I'm gonna pay $100 for this book, and the last 20 seconds it jumps to 300,
Right.
and that FOMO that people have, they're like, well, I gotta get this book because it's an Eminem Spider-Man, and boop, you end up spending $500 on it,
Because
and
you don't wanna
then
miss out.
you sit back and go, fuck, what the hell did I just do? That it got me. So yeah, absolutely 100% it does happen.
Mm,
They will it not everybody, there's a lot of good sellers out there,
sure.
you know. So you hear those people who got burned on eBay, they're like, but they had 100% positive feedback.
Yeah. Huh.
There's a lot of people out there who get very leery when it comes to dealing with anything online.
Mm.
Period.
Right,
There's stories. I think I told you the story of a guy who won a PS5 and he got a box of crackers when that got
right,
delivered to him. A box of crackers and
right,
cheese. Basically,
right.
cracker cheese. If it was
You know,
just crackers, I'll be upset.
that's crazy. I haven't heard about that shit happening since, like the original Xbox and PlayStation 2. Oh, and then the 360 came out when everybody was like flipping the fuck out when they couldn't get the Wii and the Xbox 360. So people were selling the empty boxes on eBay for like $1,000.
It happened, and
And
yeah.
they said it. They were like, this is a fucking box. But people were so like, I need to get the thing that
Hmm.
they but anyways, That's interesting though, because I mean, I don't buy and sell comics, but I've been using eBay for like probably almost 20 years, no
Yeah,
shit.
yeah,
And they've got a really good policies as far
sure.
as yeah. So where do you see that going with eBay Live?
Uh, eBay Live. You know what? eBay Live, I think, is going to be an interesting concept. You know, people have already kind of seen that kind of market with whatnot, with
Mhm,
Drip Shop. Um, when eBay Live comes up, I think right now they have it in the beta
mhm.
and beta testing. And I got to tell you, talk about followers. You said it yourself. I just looked at my eBay that and it says I've been on since 2006, 8, 4, whatever,
Right.
please, whatever.
Mhm,
Times how many other people who are on eBay
mhm.
buying and selling, and all of a sudden they're going to have this ability to eBay live
Yeah,
buys, live sales. It's going to be a monster.
yeah.
Now, the only thing that has to happen is that the policies that they make when it comes to shipping and all the nuances of how you don't get taken,
Mm,
um, that will kill it or make it great. Because a lot of people are like, "Oh man, the percentage. I don't like doing eBay Live because the percentage cost me. I bought a $20 book, but it cost me $50 due to the fees and the shipping and all that stuff."
right.
That's the stuff that'll turn people away. But
Of
if they
course.
do it right,
Mhm.
if they're it's all word of mouth, and all it takes is a few people going, "Man, it blows everything out of the water." And
Mhm.
then people start tuning in, and then, "Oh, and then I'm gonna start doing," and then so on and so on and so on. So the word of mouth could either burn you or build you up, and we're gonna find out. But it should be very interesting.
When is it do you know when it's supposed to come out of beta? No. No,
No, I do not, but
no,
trust me, you're gonna know when it does.
are you
It's
gonna be interested in possibly selling on there or just buying?
maybe
Buying?
maybe buying. I'm being very picky now and selective. I'm starting to slow down with the buying. I'm really being extremely picky.
Mm,
But there are people who are going to. There are many people who left other platforms
yeah.
as sellers, who I guarantee will probably chomp at the bit to jump on eBay Live and give it a
Right.
go.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Yeah, I
may-
think there's gonna be a mass exodus. I don't know anything about drip, but I think there'll be a mass exodus off of Whatnot personally. That's
whatnot. It's a good concept. They've kind of lost their way, in my opinion. Once again, people, this is my opinion. There's
yeah.
people who are killing it on whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic, love it, happy for you.
Yeah,
But I've
good.
also known a lot of people who have jumped ship because they were not, and they were kind of the left on an island by themselves, and sort of the island of misfit sellers, if
Mhm.
you will. They just were just left there alone, and they left, and now they either move to Drip Shop or Facebook Live. They make just as much money, if not even more money, on Facebook Live because they're not paying fees.
Mm.
Or if you sell a book for $5, you're gonna get the $5.
Yeah.
That stuff. So it's tough. Many friends who sell, and they either are getting by, they're struggling, or they're on top. It's it's a weird dichotomy of selling comic books. And a lot of
Yeah.
people who watch this are sellers. I guarantee you. Those who are going to go, "Oh, Caesar again. Sure, I'll listen to that fool." On this podcast, they're going to be like, "Yeah, Caesar's right. It kind of has its ebb and flows." So
Yes. Well, I don't know if they're owned by the same parent company or whatever because I didn't do any research because I don't give a shit. But there's a clothing, like a secondhand clothing buying app, which I'm a girl, so clearly I know about it because I like clothes. The stereotype is true, and it's called Poshmark. It
Poshmark.
is it's a carbon copy of how
Mm-hmm,
Whatnot functions.
mm-hmm,
Ex
mm-hmm,
Everything, like, all of the UI is exactly the same. You can, flood other people's shows, share, buy, bid, giveaway, all that shit, and that's been around for a minute. So,
mm-hmm.
I'm like, did they might be owned by the same people, I don't know. It's a good formula, but the issue with Poshmark, which I like I love hunting for deals on some nice shoes, okay, don't get me wrong, but it really like creates this culture of all the top people. They get to the top, they stay at the top, and then they like all work together. They and you have to do certain things, like you have to buy from certain people. You have to, you know what I mean? And it just makes it, it's not really a platform for everybody at that point. It's a platform for like the top percentage at that point.
That's what sort of happened with Whatnot, and what left a bad taste in people is that a lot of, and I do say this, influencers.
Mhm.
For those who are just listening, people who are not watching, I actually do the air quotes.
Yeah.
The influencers got the top billing, they got the exclusive, they got.
Mhm.
And those who started out with what at the beginning, the smaller sellers who were also promised to be part of the family, were not part of the family. So, there's something about that that left people with a really bad taste in their mouth. And I used to know some of these influencers, and they're cool people and all, but
Mhm.
it sucks when you're kind of like, yeah, I didn't ask for this.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
I'm not gonna knock anybody's hustle or whatever.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, if you're
And it's
once
not
again, if
really,
you're killing it,
yeah. And it's not even really a lot of these influencers, to me, what it looks like as a retard who doesn't know shit. But from what I've put together from the outside, if it's anything like Poshmark, it's almost not even like it, anything to do with them. I mean, they're talented, they're good at selling, but initially, like them getting up to those upper echelons, it really has a lot to do with the app, how the app functions, and
mm,
the engineers behind the app. So I only say that to be like, hey, don't be butthurt. I'm not butthurt. I'm not mad at anybody's hustle. Don't be butthurt at them. It's the app, and it's how. And that happens with all of these different social media, interactive platforms. They all kind of have their different ups and downsides, and
yeah.
they function on totally different premises, really. So, oh
It's
well.
it's the way of the future, man. The days of everyone's be buying everything online. The days of malls will be closing down and just be used for zombie movies and shit like that. And it I
Yeah.
don't. You know what? This is a weird world, man. We're in 2023.
It sucks.
2023. It's crazy. If
Yeah.
if you were if you were to look at those old movies, they predicted 1985 to be like edgy and flying cars, or everyone's wearing
People
spiked
are on
jackets.
Mars and shit,
We're
like,
on Mars, and or everyone's wearing spiked jackets and
oh yeah,
mohawks, and we're all like
punk rockers
punk
on
rockers and
flying motorcycles and shit.
molesting old ladies walking on the street. That's it's weird. Obviously, as you can see, we're not
I
like
actually looked this up the other day, and the Jetsons is set in, like, I think the 2050s. So we're really not that far from the Jetsons.
no, because they have robot maids, which we have now, Roombas. They used to talk on screens via Zoom.
Right.
They're a little bit ahead of their time. If you
Yeah.
look at the old Star Trek stuff, same thing. They had
I
Zoom, they
know.
had cell phones, Zoom.
Crazy.
You know,
The
um,
3D printers, to me, my husband has 3 of them. He is an engineer. And I'm not a Trekkie, but, like, I know I have rudimentary understanding of it. And you know how they have, what the fuck is it called, Cesar, where they can get whatever they want, and it
oh
just, like,
yeah, yeah, where it turns to a hologram and they just pick it out and yeah,
yeah, like if they need a gun, it can materialize a gun in the spaceship. That's, to me, is like what the 3D printers literally are.
pretty
It's
much, pretty much.
crazy.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's a 3D art. It's God, my God, if we had this when we were kids,
Oh, I
we'd be
know.
making
I know.
talk about AI, right? We'd be making all these things that we would just dream about. But listen, oh God,
Hey,
I just
listen,
went somewhere else in my mind.
I know, I am too. I'm like, I'm full of regret. Like, I was born at the most useless time ever because
Yeah.
I didn't get to grow up in, like, any of these nostalgic decades with, like, we didn't have this. Well, I had it, but I had all the shitty infantile versions of it. Like, I had
You had the GoBots instead of the Transformers. Yeah.
like, we had the Motorola Razor, but I didn't have, like, iPhones, and we had, like, AOL dial-up internet, but I didn't have this.
Yeah.
I didn't have tablets. So I'm just like, God damn it. All the people before me got to have like the true, like pure virgin experience of none of this nonsense. And then everybody after me, even though they have all this bullshit, at least has the benefit of inheriting all this extra cool technology, like tablets and 3D printers and shit.
Listen, I grew up, and I'm proud. I grew up in a very great time. I grew up in the '70s and '80s,
Mm,
where it was so cool to have toys and the innocence and the you have to use your own imagination to come up and play outside and with the action figures, the Star Wars figures, and He-Man. I was a big He-Man guy back when I was growing up. And that's the other thing too that kind of led into my passion of comic books is that I used to come home from school and turn on the TV and watch Super Friends against the Legion of Doom, and watching that stuff and it's just so cool to me that now as an adult I'm able to get that book of that character that I liked a lot. So it pop culture TV has a lot of influence
yeah.
in a lot of us, and how we grew up and what we collect now, and who knows what's going to be for our kids. I have a 19-year-old who'll soon be 20, second year, going to be her second year in college, and what's her story going to be?
Evidently, it's the same shit because it has been the same shit for like the last 60 years.
Is that what it is?
Well, you know what I mean? Like they just keep recycling the same IPs over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's so
And
rare you get new original shit anymore these days. You know
does
what I
that
mean?
does that mean the cell phone's going to get smaller again? Because that
Oh
was
my,
cool. That was
they have
cool.
they have flip phones again now, so probably I know those like little teeny like
It
key.
was cool to have the small phone, so it's like, "Oh, you in
Yeah,
my back pocket," you know? It wasn't Zoolander? Was it Zoolander? They had a little tiny phone, you know?
yeah, the little
Right. So it's and then became this tablet-sized thing in your pocket, and then, it got small again. So stuff where, bell bottoms are in, then they're out, and they're back in, then they're out,
Oh,
and,
yep. I
you
grew up
know,
wearing them. Yeah.
there you go. It's I don't know where it's gonna go, but this, my friend, is consistent.
Yeah.
Comic books are a consistent thing, whether it be gold, silver, bronze, copper, modern, whatever it is, it's consistent.
Hmm.
And if you want to make money off it, there's a way to do it. If you're buying modern books today and hoping to flip them in the future, that's tough,
Hmm.
because they produce so many of them. So it's like the 90s all over again. There's nothing so crazy about them.
Is
Maybe
it kind of like collecting blue chip artwork in a way? It kinda strikes me a little like that almost.
comic books are like the stock market.
Yeah,
They
okay.
do go up in value and then they kind of drop in value. Right now, it's starting to level out, but right now it is sort of still a buyer's market where a book would be $2,000 in 2 years ago. You could probably get it for 15.
Hmm,
I get a lot of my books on. I do, and this is a tip for a lot of you newbies. If you want to get big books and you don't have the big money to just drop to buy, I have people who I do payment plans with,
mm,
and they're very cool, and they'll do a payment plan, and
mm,
that's the way I'm able to afford and get bigger books
yeah,
because normally I don't have $2,500 just to drop on a book.
yeah, that's
I'll,
great.
I'll do payment plans. There's a lot of people who do.
Yeah.
More power to them. I commend you on doing that, but I'm not one of those dudes. As you can see, I barely have money to buy a razor. But the thing is that there's ways to obtain. People like to do trades. I know a lot of people that do nothing but trade. They'll trade a book they don't care much about for something they do want. And then that guy's like, all right, I don't care much about this book. I'll give it up. What do you got? Well, I
Right.
got this and I got this. All right. Well, you're getting now to that money level. You're up. What else do you got? Okay, I'll take four of those books because those four books combined are the same prices as one book. So I'll do the trade.
You know
Yeah.
what's interesting to me as we talk about all of this is, like, how seriously, without this fan base, this consumer base, none of this would mean shit. It's like really all totally done by the people who love it, whether it's films, television, the physical comic books, whatever, the people who love these characters and these stories and this, whatever, it's really controlled by them. It's crazy because like you would think that like every comic book shop, brick and mortar, would have gone the way of the dinosaurs by now. But it's kept alive by the people, the ones that are there are kept alive by the people who love, this niche, this whatever.
That's right. That's right. There's people who have the pull lists. They go and they have this. The comic, the shop owner will go and pull all these people, and they come at the end of the month and they buy this big box of stuff that's waiting for them. And power to the geeks and the nerds. We are the ones, and I've been telling this to quite a few people on the podcast. It's a good time to be a geek and a nerd, man, because we are getting to see stuff, characters that we grew up with on the big screen.
True.
We get to own stuff that we couldn't own as a kid. It's a good time. We're getting stuff on TV shows.
Right.
We're getting The Mandalorian. We're getting HBO Max with their DC stuff they're going to be doing. We get all the stuff. It's a good time to be that nerd, to be nerding out and geeking out. It's overall, it's a nice hobby to be in. And if anyone out there is looking for answers or needs somewhere to start or something like that, I'm always open. You can find me on, as you can see, on Instagram. You could also, I'm on Facebook, Cesar D. Morales. Feel free to message me. I have no problem giving you guys a little bit of guidance and where to go and stuff like that, because we all started somewhere. And, shame on people who shit on the new people who really just want to learn, but hey, that's just the way it is. And I'm here to help and stuff like that. So go to the Comic Fanzine podcast. The Facebook page for the podcast. We have a show coming up this coming Wednesday. I do not know who we have on as a guest. It might be a shit show and just catch up on the shows and TVs and commercials and all that stuff. And then, of course, follow me on Instagram at the Real Dracula's Wolf.
Yes.
On Instagram. Not that guy. Delete dude. It's bad enough. I gave him enough time as it is. Okay, here it is. That's me. There you go, guys. I put up some stuff. It's kind of fun. It's just, listen, I'm just a collector who just happens to be a co-host on a podcast that people seem to like. And that's it. I'm not
You found information for people, though, which is awesome.
Listen, it's growing up, I wanted to be an actor, singer, grew up in LA and all that shit. And then I realized, you know what? I don't want to be a waiter for the rest of my life, so I'm going to not do that. But and here I am. I'm in tech. Now I collect comic books and I make a lot of friends, and I have a lot of friends in the comic book community. And
that's nice.
You do build a lot of friendships that turn into a budding friendship because you have, what is it, that common that commonality. You have that, you like comic books, I like comic books, and then you get to know and you get to evolve. And I didn't like, you also like cars, I also like cars. I like this show and this. It's a good way. It's a special way, especially if you're an introvert. If you're an introvert and you're like, don't want to go out of the house, it's a good way to introduce yourself to a bunch of people who are like-minded. And once again, collect what you love. It's bottom line. Collect what you love, and don't be afraid to ask questions. And we're all here to help.
On that note, let me run the ads I forgot about, and then if you want to run, you can run. Or I have one other question for you.
Oh, sure. That's
because you're like, yeah, some questions. I was like, oh, that reminds me. I have some questions. Okay. Did we do this? Oh, hey. Okay, 2 more. Here we go. And one more, show some love.
First world, come in and take a seat. Pay us no attention, it's all conspiracy. We have satire and parody, some funny, some perverse. If none of it's offensive to you, you'd be the first.
Firstworldcomic.com, baby. Go show some love. Okay, so here's my question then.
Yes.
And you just, I know you, I don't know what you want to do because I don't know your brain, but you don't have to go in depth. You don't have to elaborate too much, but I would love to hear any like advice or tea that you have on me as an artist new to this, like how artists get scammed. You talk about the collector side. Do you have any insight onto the artist side?
If you're contracting to do a job, I would draw a contract and sign it. A lot of artists do not work on contract. It's sort of a handshake, 18 before handshake, smile. And if don't listen to those, and this is from me, from what I've been hearing from other artists and stuff like that. And aside from that, business etiquette,
right?
Straight out business etiquette. If people are saying, no, Amy, you don't have to do that. Don't do that. Just, I've worked with them. Go ahead. They'll pay you. If it does not make you feel good and you're just like, I have no problem doing that, but let me write up a contract.
Right.
It's always protecting you. It's the same way as when people, like I said, when people do buy books and they do the goods and services compared to friends and family. If anything goes awry, you have that protection of buying goods and services, and PayPal will be like, we'll back you up. Contracting it's the same thing. You have that binding contract, and if someone goes squirrely and they do, my place got broken into and I don't have the money to pay you this month and whatever, you're like, things happen, my man, but it's not my problem. I did something for you, so there has been artists getting screwed for money.
Yeah.
And it's well known from certain people that I do know.
Yeah.
You kind of, and we just had a show about this, and the guy did not have a contract, and he's like, I kind of learned from this.
What blew my mind is I was actually listening to one of your guys' shows, and an entire publishing house that had to claim bankruptcy didn't pay any of their artists. Fucking wild to me. But I mean, yeah.
What would have happened if you had a contract and that happened?
Right.
Right. It's different. It's a different view, and I'm pretty sure these guys didn't have a written binding contract.
Crazy.
But so for all of you artists out there who are new, and let's just and once again, I might get shit from people going, you don't know you're not an artist, Cesar. You don't know. Okay, cool. I don't. Once again, this is my opinion. But if I was a businessman and I was doing work or I was being paid for a service, I would want a contract to say I'm going to be being paid this much with this end date, this due date, and all that, and that's called the contract.
Right, 100%. I had somebody telling me like you should work off of a fucking handshake, and I was like, I don't know this person from a can of paint. Like I know you, I don't know them. Yeah. So that's a big all not going to happen. And then they were like, well, what do you even mean? Like what a contract for like what? And I'm like, if you're serious, you're just showing your ass right now that you're dumb as an adult. And I literally had to tell this person, I was like, I just had my house re-roofed and resided 2 years ago. Do you think I didn't have a contract with the people who did that? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're all familiar with this, even if you're not a business person. We all encounter contracts at the end of the day, probably all the time. You're always signing on a fucking line somewhere. Yeah. So this is no different from anything else. And it's just a CYA, cover your ass.
Yeah.
And that being said, I'll probably get fucked over one of these days. It happens to everybody in everything. So let me not act like I'm fucking brilliant. No, you never know who's going to be a shitty little slimy snake about stuff. It happens.
Live and learn. And you know
Yeah.
what? I tell you what, Amy, I'll talk to you offline for someone you could reach out to have as a guest. And trust me, he will not pull punches
Oh, I would love to hear that.
at all. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you who it is later. But
Okay. And it's not, for me, it's not about like the dramatics. I'm like, this shit is important. Nobody talks about it. And here's the other side of this is like, you say like, oh, just work with a contract, this, that, and the third. Yes, and it is common sense. But you know why? The only reason it's common sense to me is because I have a sister who's a business lawyer. You know, honestly, a lot of people don't think about this. When I went to art school, yeah, I did take business classes that taught you rudimentary, your protections, your blah, 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 how to do business. I have the fucking textbook somewhere. It's really good. But I really don't fault these artists, though, who do work on a handshake. I understand that people dangle these carrots in front of your face, and they not just do that and promise you all this stuff. People are extremely, I don't think this is just my experience. People can be extremely coercive with you as an artist and be like, just crazy. Like they won't let you get a word in edgewise, or they'll offer you all of these things, or they'll be so adamant and push that a lot of the times I think people just go, fine, whatever. Fine, I'll fucking work with you. Fine, I'll fucking do this. You know what I mean? I really don't even fault them a lot because it's a totally different beast. Like, in some of these weird places, art being one of them, I'm sure there's lots of other industries that are bizarre.
Yeah.
There's no straightforward way to navigate it. Like, if you have a 9-to-5 job, you're a nurse, you go to the hospital, you have your patients that day that you got to go. Being art as an entire fucking field is like, there's no handbook on how to do these things, really.
The only advice I could probably give you is surround yourself with good artists.
Mm-hmm.
Surround yourself with people who've been around for a long time. Learn from them, learn from their mistakes, almost secretly be mentored by them.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd be surprised how much you learn. And I'm even an artist, and I've learned some things that I shouldn't know, but because I do know, I'm like, that's how that works, huh? So it's one of those, it's a secret outlier that you kind of put it in the back of your brain, and you store it there, and you pull it out when you really least expect it.
Ooh.
So
Like
I'll tell you what, there's people, we'll talk, I'll send you some names, and it'd be a great show for you because it's an artist with another artist, and it's a young versus an old.
Oh yeah.
When it comes to experience, and you're gonna be like
I'll be the first person to tell you I don't know shit about shit.
Just sponge it. You want to be that sponge for it and just take the information.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, Amy, this has been a blast. You can bring me on at any given time. I don't mind doing this. I don't mind sharing my knowledge, and everybody just go watch the Comic Fanzine podcast every Wednesday at 9 East Coast. I think we have a new fan here with Amy, who's maybe hopefully you could jump on, you could take a look and catch a show live on Wednesday. That'll be 9 o'clock your time, so that's not too bad.
It's a great show.
But
it's very entertaining.
Yeah, go on there, subscribe, and especially do the notifications so you'll know when the show's coming up. And I will hit you up, say, hey, we're about to jump on live, so you can jump in the comments and all that good stuff. But check that out. Check out my Instagram, and I will see you guys in the near future. Amy, you were fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, Cesar. You're amazing. I appreciate everything.
I appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.